Cannot miss 4 incredible must-have ChatGPT tools in Excel. Let's take a quick look and see what kind of tools. Maybe we want to create a table of data. All we need to do is right-click, click ChatGPT table results, and boom, in just a few seconds, all of that data is going to come in a table format, just like that. We have that. Or maybe we want to do top 10 Excel platforms. Same thing using ChatGPT. We're just going to call that response, and in just a few seconds, that data is going to also come into Excel, just like this. And there we have our data. If we take a quick look at this, we see we've got the platform and the description automatically on there. So we've got that. That is just one of the few. We also have a really cool function. I can create a function out of this, a cool ChatGPT function. Let me show you how that might work. Let's say we have some social media up here and we have the multiple products down here. And what we want to do is we want to create a post for that. So we can ask ChatGPT to do just that, but within a brand new Excel function that I've created. So we can do something like this, equals ChatGPT. There's the brand new function. Create a social media post for, and then we have to list the product. Where is that product located? That product is located right here inside column A. So what I'm going to do is make that A absolute. And I want to do it for a specific social media. So and space for, and then another space, and then and then we're going to use, okay, this one will be Facebook, but that row is going to be absolute. That is all we have to do to produce a single result. Just hit enter. We don't even need to enter the last parentheses, and there it is. Are you ready to take your Excel skills to the next level? Now, what if we want to produce that for all of the other social media? All we need to do is just drag that, wait a few seconds, and here it comes. And just like that, we have our social media. So that's for a single product. That's for the dashboard. But what if we have multiple products? All we need to do is just drag this function down, and we've now created it for multiple products after just a few seconds, depending upon the amount of data. And there you have it, 6 different social media, 4 different projects. We have 24 unique posts, complete with unique tags. We have icons. We've got it all covered inside this. What's another use case scenario that we might want to do? We can use this with translation. Let's go ahead and ask it for the top 10 languages in the world. We'll just put list the top 10 languages in the world. All I need to do is just right click on it and click ChatGPT table results, and it's going to do just that. All right, there it is, super quick. Okay, now what I want to do is I want to create a translate. Hi, this is Randy with Excel for freelancers. I want that in different languages. How can I do that? Well, we could say equals, we'll do ChatGPT, our function again, and here we want to do, we want this, please say, and what do we want the sentence to be? We can be right here, that is an absolute. And we can enter our formula here, equals ChatGPT, here it is, and then we're going to do a translation. Let's say, please say, and then we'll do and, we want to make sure it's an absolute here. So we're going to use F4 on that. Please say and, we're going to use and, space, in, and then another space, and we want the language. What is that language? And it's right here. So we can do that right here. So we'll just put it right here in the next cell, and that is going to be C15. So there we go. So now we have it on C15, and now it's going to get to work. So here we have it here. It's in Mandarin. We drag that down, and now we have it in all top 10 languages. And there you have it. There's the result. So now we've got that in all different languages. So it can be used as a translation. You've just seen 2 of the very cool tools, but what about the third and the fourth? What if I've got an issue with a formula? Here I've got a sum product formula. It's returning NA. There's a problem with it. So I need to fix my formula. All I need to do is just click fix my formula, wait a few seconds, and the solution is going to be coming up. There it is. So we've got the correct formula, and we have an explanation of what that is. So we can replace it. We can do the same thing here, fix my formula, and we've got that there. So we can fix the formula, a few seconds, it's going to come up. We've got the correct formula here and an explanation of what went wrong. It's also going to work with code. Let me go ahead and copy and paste some code. I've got some code right here. Let's go ahead and copy some code that is having an issue. And all I need to do is just right click anywhere on the sheet, fix my code, and we'll clear this out. This was some sample text. We don't need that. And we're going to fix my code. And what that's going to do is going to contact ChatGPT, and it's going to give us the correct code along with the explanation. Here it is. Explanation. The code was missing a line to define the variable, which is a column. So not only do we have the corrected code, but we've got the explanation of what went wrong. Those are the 4 tools I'm going to be showing you today. I hope you'll stick with us through the entire training. If you have not yet, go ahead and click the subscription button below, and don't forget the icon for the notification. That'll ensure that you get alerted to my new trainings I create each and every Tuesday. If you do like these trainings, you want to support this channel, some fantastic ways to do it, even for just a few dollars. For example, our Patreon platform. I'm going to take these trainings and I'm going to create updates, and they're going to be based on the features you request or the fixes you want, or you want me to focus on something. That is just something I'm going to do. In fact, this particular training, I'm thinking about putting that into add-in. So an add-in, creating a great add-in with all these features. I might do that for our Patreon members. So make sure you get on that. Also, if you want 250 of my best templates, I've got a really incredible download, the 250 workbook template. It's got a great price, and you're going to get tons of my best templates in one single download. Of course, along with an incredible library that's going to get you one click to open the Excel application and a one click to view the original training video. All right, let's get to it, because I've got 4 very cool features and tools to help you today using the ChatGPT model, which we have done. If you are new to OpenAI's ChatGPT, I'll explain it real quickly here. This is a brand new, it's taken the world by storm. It's called Chat. There's brand new GPT-4 that's just come out today or yesterday. It's called OpenAI and ChatGPT. Once you get signed up, you can scroll down here. They change this all the time, but try ChatGPT. Just look for something called Try. Get yourself signed up. Once you are signed up, you'll get something that looks like this. It is free to sign up. You'll put in your prompt here. You can just say, give me a sample of a VBA code to send an email. Okay, so you can basically just write your question and then the prompt answer comes out right away. So whatever your question is, there it is. So basically we are going to take the API and we're bringing it into Excel. Now to do that, you're going to need your API key. So what you'll do is once you get your account, you'll want to go into here, you'll get your account that looks something like this, an overview, and then what you want to do is go into API keys. So it's going to be a platform OpenAI account. So that's where you're going to look at, and then API keys, and then you're going to create a new secret key. So you will need that. That's important in order to use this feature. Once you have that API key, all you would need to do is just come in here and paste it right in here, located in D5. So that's all you need to do inside that. That's where I have it there. So I got 4 really cool features to show you. They're all going to use this technology, and it's really super because it's going to really maximize your Excel use. You're going to be able to complete a lot more in a lot less time, get issues fixed, and basically just create data. So let's get started. I want to show you all of that trick. So that's how we're going to use OpenAI, and that's how we get this API real quickly. So what's first? Let's go ahead and focus on, I want to show you this really cool function that I have created. Now function, otherwise known as UDF, which is user-defined function, and that means you can define your own function through VBA. So I've done something called ChatGPT, and it's going to equal chat, just as we saw GPT, and then what you're going to do is you're going to put in your prompt or whatever question you have here. And any question you have, automatically the response of that is going to come in the cell. So you could just say something like create what is, you could do the same thing. What is the VBA code? So just so we can see, to send an email in Excel. So we can do the same thing here, and we're going to get the response. Of course, it's not going to be exactly the same. It might be slightly different, but it's going to take a few seconds. Now it depends on the size of your request. The larger the request takes a little more time. And so here we have it just in a format. So we basically get the idea. We've got it all just basically an unformatted result. So here it is right here. So that is the idea. So how do we create that? Well, what we're going to do is we're going to go into the developers mode and take a look at that function that we have created. So inside the developer, we're going to go to Visual Basic. You can also click Alt F11 to get you there. If you don't have the developer tab visible, you can activate that. All you would need to go is just go into Excel and then options. And what we're going to do is we're going to go into the customize ribbon and then just make sure that you have the developers selected there. Once you do get into developer, I've got a few different modules to show you. Okay, so this is the VBA editor. Now I've got 4 different modules, just I've separated 4 different features. And the first one we're going to focus on is this ChatGPT function right here, ChatGPT function. So this is all the code. Now a lot of this code is very, very similar. So we're going to create a brand new function. That's exactly what we do. It's called ChatGPT, just as you saw. And the prompt is whatever the question the user is going to put in, and it's going to be a string value. You want that response as a string. Okay, to do that, we're going to dimension the OXML HTTP. Now we need to basically call ChatGPT, and we're going to do that through an HTTP request. So it's called an HTTP request. To do that, we need to define this variable as an object. And now we need to send it some information, and basically we need to get some information back. So what we're going to do is we're going to compose a string of body. So we want to send it a lot of information. All that information is going to be in a body called AI body. That's the string that we're going to use. And then what we want to do is we want to get that response. Once we get the response back from them, it's going to be in a string, and it's going to call it a response. We also need to, when we send it that information, it won't accept it unless we send our secret key. And our secret key is located right here inside D5, as mentioned earlier. So we also want the parsed answer. So once we get the response, there's going to be a lot of code with it. And we really don't, I'll show you what that looks like, but we really don't want it there. So what we need to do is we need to parse it. It means we need to separate it out, and we need to clean it up so that the response is the way we want it. Okay, the parsed answer as a string, and the temp, right? We need the temperature. Now the temperature is something that's interesting here, and it's going to be right here. And this is the model. So there's multiple models. In fact, there's a new one out today, but it's only available for Plus users. Then that means the paid, and it's called ChatGPT or GPT-4. It's supposed to be incredibly impressive. So I can't wait until that becomes more available to free and paid, and I'm going to show you that. Basically, GPT-4, you're going to be able to put in much larger prompts. You're going to be able to send it pictures, and it's going to be like if you send it a picture of some ingredients, it'll create recipes for you. I heard it's impressive. Now the temperature, the higher the temperature, I've been experimenting now. I had a drop-down list, but this was obviously not working in this version. Probably shouldn't be a drop-down version, but you want to put it anywhere from 0 to 1. I'll put that in here. I tried anything over like 1.4, it really gives incorrect answers. From 0 to 1, that's sufficient, okay? And so we could do, so the lower the temperature, like you're going to get very, very accurate and very precise results. However, the higher the temperature, like 0.8, you're going to get like maybe some more creative responses, but they might be less accurate. So I'd like to keep it around 0.4, 0.3, 0.2. So that's what this probably should not be a data validation. If I have a drop-down list, I would do that, but let's just go ahead and clear this out. We don't need that. That was from an approved. So keep that in mind. The temperature should, you can experiment with this. So when you change this, anything higher than 1, it's going to probably time out, or it's going to be some results that just aren't going to make sense. So keep that in mind. So it's kind of nice. And this is the model. This could change over time. You can see this in the API. This will change over time. So, but for now, we're going to stick with the more common one, which is Text DaVinci 003. Okay, so we need to put those in variables. I need the model and I need the temperature. So what we're going to do here is we need those in variables, the temperature as a string and the model as a string. Okay, what we're going to do is we're going to extract the secret key from the admin sheet in D5. And the model is going to come from D6, and the temperature is going to come from D7. So those are the variables that we're going to use. We already have the prompt. The prompt is the string that the user entered. Remember, the prompt, let's just take a look at the prompt, is whatever the user entered. So equals ChatGPT. Now the prompt is whatever they start typing in here, so that's the prompt. And also keep that in mind that I'm not a huge fan of functions just because they tend to calculate and calculate. So what I would like to do, like in something like this case, once I get the results that I want, I would copy that, and then I'll just paste the values because I really don't want functions continue to calculate just like a normal formula would. So what I'll do is like paste the values. That's really what we want. So keep that in mind. That helps keep the workbook faster. I don't use functions too much because I feel like they slow down, but sometimes in this case, it is really powerful. So again, once you get the values you want, copy and then just paste the values in here. And that's kind of a nice feature. That way you have the values and you do not have the function anymore. Okay, so continuing on with the function, what we're going to do is we're going to set the prompt. Now when that prompt, whatever the string the user entered, I also want to get it ready to be able to send. Now, if we have entered any type of quotation marks, let's say the user entered quotation marks, I want those quotation marks to be replaced with a backslash and a quotation mark. And also, if there's any new lines, like say there's any lines, I probably should also add a character 10 on this, then I want to replace with \n, because when we send the information, this is what it reads as new lines. So in other words, we need to basically take it from the text that we have until the text that it understands. And VB new line is also a character 10. So I could probably, add one more. I'm going to add one more onto that because that can be kind of helpful. And so what I want to do is I want to add character 10. Character 10 is also a brand new line. So I'm going to add that on. Also going to replace that with, again, that backslash and the end there. All right. And so that's it. So just replacing those characters, getting it ready because it reads new lines as \n. It reads quotation marks as backslash and then the quotation mark. So that's what we do. We just have to prepare the prompt question. Okay, so continuing. Now what we'll do is we're ready. We just created this item as an object called late binding, and that means we need to bind it at this point. So what we're going to do is we're going to set it, and what kind of request it's going to be creating an object, and that object is going to be this xml2.server XML, I know it's a long word, HTTP. So basically that's the HTTP request. We are going to create that request. We need to send that request over our server. We need to send the question and the answer comes back. So that's basically all we're doing. And now what we need to do is we need to open and we need to post that question. We're posting that question but we need to post it to a very specific link. This link comes from the ChatGPT API. They say, please send us the questions via this link. So this is the link. False, okay? So now what we're gonna do is, what are we sending? We're gonna send a body. So we need to send all this information. We need to send the model, we need to send the temperature, we need to send the secret key, and we need to send our question. So all that has to be sent. And it's gonna be sent in a single string. And we're gonna call that string AI body. So this is how it's done. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna start out with that bracket and then a model. And then what is the model? And remember, we need to surround that model with quotation marks. So to do that, we need to add 3 quotation marks before and 3 quotation marks after. So that's gonna make sure that within that quotation mark is gonna be sent. We can also use character 34. So we're gonna send that model, remember, is right here, is inside the admin, and it is text DaVinci 3 or whatever gets updated. So as it gets updated, you can update it here. Very good. Now continuing on with our code, we also wanna send the prompt. Now the prompt is this prompt plus the colon, and again, that prompt also must be surrounded with a quotation mark. So we're adding 3 quotation marks plus the prompt or the question that we're asking us, and then ending with also a quotation marks. We also need to set the temperature. Now the temperature is not surrounded by quotation marks. That's just simply the temperature. That's the 0.4, 0.2, or whatever it is that you send. The max tokens, this is gonna be 35. Now I've heard with the new ChatGPT-4, that can be up to 25,000. So I'm really looking forward to that because we can send much larger requests. And that's basically the request that we're going to make. Now what we wanna do is we wanna set what type of request it is. Well, it's gonna be a JSON type request. So we need to set these header types. Content type is application JSON. It's just gonna be like what type of content, what type. And also we need to send what makes us authorized to send that. So this authorization bear means what is your secret key? Are you author? So that way it knows exactly what account. There's certain limits on that. So keep that in mind. I've been using it a lot, but the free one does have some certain limits. Let's take a look at that. The usage comes up. So I've been using it a lot, but I'm only at $323 of $18. So this is the free account. I'm not even on the paid account. So keep that in mind. There is a paid account of $20 a month, but I'm still on the free. So I've been using it a whole lot. So that's pretty good. It doesn't use, and I heard the new one's even cheaper, meaning, it costs less to use more. So that's going to be kind of good. Okay, so that means you need to send that secret key so that it knows which account is going to be used. Debug print, what this is going to do is going to put that AI body directly inside our immediate window so that we can actually see what we're sending. So what does all that look like? It looks, when we send it, it looks just like this. Please provide a corrected version of the following Excel VBA code. If we're correcting the code, provide it as to the error. And this is what we sent. Okay, this is all the code that was sent in there. Ends with the max tokens and the temperature. So this is what the end of it looks like. So this is the request. So notice max tokens 3,500. So this is what we're sending the AI body. And I want to see what that is. This is not required, but I want to see what it is. If I want to see what it is, I'm going to use debug print AI body. This is going to print it basically down here inside the immediate window so that we can actually see. Okay, great. I also want to do the same thing with the response. So we're going to do that inside down here. So the response, that means so basically at this point, it's going to take a little bit and then we're going to get that response back. To get that response, it's going to be the OXML HTTP response text. So this is the response that we're going to get from the server, and we're going to put it in this string variable. But now I need to check. There could be some issues. Maybe there's an incorrect API key, or API, probably a secret key, right? So if it's incorrect, if you've provided the wrong secret key, you're going to get a message that looks something like this: incorrect API key provided. It's going to have these words: incorrect API key provided. So what I want to do is I want to check this response. Does it contain these text here? So if it does, we're going to use the in-string command to look for it. We're going to look inside the response and we're going to say, does it contain these words? If it does, that means it's going to be greater than 0. And we need to let the user know that they have provided an incorrect key. So you can find your API key, and then I've just sent them a link exactly where they are, and we're going to exit the function out. This is a function, so it's not exit sub, it is exit function. We're going to exit out. Okay, also, if it's larger than 3,500, so we have about maximum of 4,000. If it's larger than that, then it's going to say we've reached the maximum context length. So that's going to let us know if the response contains this maximum context length is greater than 0, then we need to let the user, you have reached the maximum content length. Please clear the history. Now ChatGPT-4 is going to be like 25,000, so that's going to be really cool. We'll be able to send it really large amounts of code, and we're going to be able to get really large amounts of code back, or whatever, strings or whatever you want. So I heard it's really cool. They could write entire books soon. Okay, great. So we're going to exit the function out in case we're hit the maximum. I want that entire response inside the immediate so I know what it looks like. So for example, that response will be something like this. If you can see down here, object text completion created, model. So we're going to get all this stuff. So this is not anything that I want, right? Inside. So what we need to do is parse it. In other words, the response includes all of this, but I don't want the end user to see any of this. I want the end user to see starting about right about here. So this is one of the translation ones. So it starts here. There's two new lines. This is a new line, this is a new line. Then hola, soy Randy, de Excel, para freelancers. That's the Spanish translation that I requested. So this is the response. So this is what I want to get out of it. I want to extract this. So I want to basically remove everything before this, and everything after that I want to remove. So that means we need to parse it. So we can do that in a few different lines of code. The first thing what I want to do is I want to look for this, the text, right? So I want to look for this, and I want to remove everything to the left of this. So if we want to remove everything to the left, that means we want to keep everything to the right. So to do that, we're going to use the right function. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the response, the entire response. I want the right function, and I want to find something. I want to look for this text and the quotation marks and the colon and another quotation mark. So I'm going to look for that, and I'm going to use the in-string reverse in case there's more than one. I want the last one. In case there's more than one, I want the last one. So we're going to use in-string reverse for that. It'll get us the last ones. What am I looking for? I'm looking for this bracket, and I also want the quotation marks, the words text, another quotation mark, the colon, and quotation marks. And I'm going to subtract 9 because I don't want to include these. I want to exclude all of these. So we're subtracting 9. So what that's going to do, this line of code is going to update it's going to take a new string variable called parsed answer, and it's going to basically remove everything to the left, that not including this here. These two will remain for a bit. So we're going to take everything and just basically remove it. Okay, so now that we have all the left text cleared out, what I want to do is I want to remove everything to the right of that. So what do I want to do? I want to look for something like index. So if we see the word index, that's what we're going to be looking for. As we see inside this result right here, so this one was for France, right? So here, oh, this one's for Spanish. So I'm going to look for index because that means the last part, once it's complete, I want to look for index, and I want to remove everything to the right of this. Okay, so that means I want to use the left function. I want to get everything to the left of this, and I want to keep that. So we're going to use the left function. We're going to take that parsed answer, the one that got updated right here, and we're going to look for, what are we looking for this? I'm going to look for the word index, but I want to just, not only that, I want to look for the quotation marks, this right here, this quotation mark, then a comma, then the quotation mark, then the index. Okay, so that's it right here. So that's what I'm looking for. So the quotation marks, then a comma, quotation marks, then the index. So once that is all found using in-string reverse, meaning the last instance of it, subtracting 1. Why are we subtracting 1? Because I also want to remove this last quotation mark. And I want to take everything to the left of this. I want to keep everything to the left of that. So that is how we're going to do it. So once I have the left, what I also want to do is I want to replace any of the backslash ends with character 10. What does that mean? That means anywhere we see, let's find an instance of where the response contains a brand new line. We will see some. Any instance where we see this, I want it with a new line. Remember, this backslash n means brand new lines. What we're going to do is we're going to use two different replaces. The first one, we're going to take that parsed answer. Anywhere the backslash n is, we're going to replace it with character 10. Now, character 10 means simply new line. Also, anywhere that there's a backslash and a quote, I'm going to replace that with the normal quote. So basically, we're simply reversing here. Here we are taking the quotes, quotation marks, and replacing it with the backslash quotes. But here we're doing the absolute opposite. We're looking for anywhere where there's a backslash and quote, and we're replacing it with just the quotation marks. So that's how we have to do. Then there's one more thing that I want to do, and that is I want to, if there's new lines found before, I want to make sure that we've removed it. So in other words, we've removed everything up to this, but now I want to check, because sometimes, but not always, our results start with backslash n. So what I want to do is I want to look for that. Parsed answer replace. So what I want to do, if, you're using if because it's not always, the parsed answer, the first two characters equal character 10 and character 10. Why would they make character 10? Because we've already replaced them with character 10. We've already replaced them. So what I want to look, if the first two characters equal character 10, then simply use the right of the parsed answer length, the parsed answer minus 2. What does this mean? All we're simply doing is removing both the new lines at the beginning. We're simply removing those two character 10s, taking them out and leaving with the answer. Okay, great. And then all we need to do is replace the cell itself with the actual parsed answer. And to do that, all we need to do is just write the function here equals the parsed answer. And that's all we need to do to get a brand new function. Let me show you another example of that, how that might look. Equals ChatGPT. And then all we need to do is write a poem about a bald man that loves Excel. Okay, that's it. That's all we need to do. And it's just going to automatically create that answer. So it'll think about that poem for a few seconds and it'll return with the response. And there you have it, a bald man with an Excel spreadsheets that can't quite he loves. And you can see we got all the poem here. All right, funny. Okay, great. So that's how we do the function. All right, so that's the first of the amazing tool. Let's do our second tool here. Let's go ahead and number these. And so what we want to do is say, what if we can get a table from any source with just one click? Let me show you that one more time. I think that's really cool. Any page you're on, all we need to do is just right click and then click the table results, as long as we have put in some kind of request. What kind of request? Let's just do something quick. Now, the more results, the larger table. Top 10, let's say Excel add-ins. Okay, since we're on Excel. So that's what I want. I want to know the top 10 Excel. All I need to do is just right click and then click table results. Boom. Take a few seconds. It won't take very long because we've only asked for 10 of those. And it's going to determine those results. And then what it's going to do is going to provide any additional column and information. So it's going to give us the title. It's going to give us the add-in name and then a little bit of a description. That's some pretty cool and powerful things right in Excel. So how do we do that? Well, I want to take this and I want to show you this one here. What does it look like inside ChatGPT itself? So I'm going to pull this up here. And I'm going to do this, but I'm going to top 10 Excel add-ins in table format or something like that, letting them know that we want the response in a table format. And that's really what I want. So, which is really, really cool. So basically I'm duplicating this so we can request them in a table format. So here it's going to do, in fact, I would think the API is even quicker than the response. So it's listing all of those add-ins through GPT in a table format. So the key is to say, I want it in a table format. So it's going to look all of those. Very, very cool. And maybe I'll create this as an add-in and it'll be the top add-in one day. Okay, this is not an exhaustive list. There may be other add-ins. So basically we're just duplicating this inside Excel itself. Okay, so the first thing I want to show you is how do we get that right-click functionality? Okay, let's take a look inside this workbook here. And we're going to go inside this particular workbook. We're going to go into this workbook. And I've got actually 3 different items here, right? So the best way to do that is to add some controls to the command bar. If we take a look inside here, we've got 3 different ones that I've created. Fix my code, fix my formula, and ChatGPT table results. So we have all of those inside. So I've added 3 different items. And to do that, what we need to do is just do sub sheet before right click, because this is the function, right? This is the workbook. We're adding it before right click. So when we choose them, this is when we want them to appear before the right click. So now what do we want to do? So we're going to dimension the command bar as a command bar button, 2 and 3. So basically we need 3 different variables as command bar buttons, and as long as they're unique. And then we're going to focus on the application. What I want to do is I want to delete it. The important thing is every time we create them with these lines, they must be deleted because every time we right click, they get redone, right? Basically, so what we want to do is we always want to delete them first. So we're going to look for anything that says ChatGPT table results, any button that can, and we're going to delete it. We're also going to delete anything that says fix my formula and fix my code. So we're going to delete all of those. Then all we need to do is just create 3 new ones. So we're going to set, first of all, we need to set it to see what they are. Command bar, cell control, add temporary before 1. And then we're just basically, all 3 of them are going to be command bars. And we're going to put them at the top. Before 1 means that we're just going to have them at the top of the list. That's where I want them to appear. Now we're going to focus on them individually. Individually, I want them because you notice they all have different icons. Right? Another look at it, we have 3 different unique icons. We have fix my code, we have fix my formula, and then we have ChatGPT table results, each individual. So each individual icon comes, or they're also known as face IDs, and face IDs also have a number associated with them. Now I have a list, and it's listed in a PDF. It's kind of an exhaustive list, but it's going to help. I'll make sure that our Patreon members get this list along with anything else you guys need. So make sure. So basically, this is a PDF, and it's going to show. Basically, I looked through this exhaustive list, and I found 3 that might look similar to what we might want. And if you see, let me just double check. Each one has a number associated with them. So I took that number and I created it. So first of all, we need a caption, table results, of course. And then we need a face ID. That's the icon that's going to show up. So I grab that number. And then we need the macro. The on action means what macro runs when we click on it, right? So on action. So we have 3 different macros: return data in table. We have one, fix my formula, with a different icon and a macro called fix my formula. And then with the third one, we have fix my code with a different icon or face ID and fix my code. So that's all we need to do. The only other thing we need to do is when we deactivate this workbook, because we only want that right click available on a single workbook, we want to make sure that we remove all those. So basically I had, let's see, we only need these. This one I don't need anymore. That was temporary. So ChatGPT table results, fix my table. And then that was an original name that I created. If for some reason you decide to change the name and it's still in your menu, just delete it. Just create this line with whatever the old name was, and it'll automatically delete it when you deactivate the workbook. But I only have 3, and so we're going to use those 3. So make sure that when you're deactivating the workbook, you also delete these controls. That's it. That's all we have to do with the right click. So remember, the only thing we need to remember now is the 3 different macros that we're going to focus on. We're going to focus on now, it's called return table and data. And that's going to be right here called data in table. So it's a single macro called here. And we're going to show now the macro is very, very similar. So we're just going to go over the differences, because all we do is basically make a request, all the secret keys, everything else. There's a lot that's the same. So anything that's the same, we won't continue to go over. But what I want you to do is I want you to take a look at the response. When we have a table response, it's going to look like these little bars. You see those bars there? That single line. So this little vertical line is going to let us separate those. So this is the response when we get back. So I'm going to show you how to parse that in just a moment. So let's go through what's different in the code. So the prompt, in this case, the prompt is whatever's already in the cell value. That's the active cell value. So what we need to do is we need to dimension the prompt cell as a range. So that means here's the prompt, right? So the active cell value and the active cell is the range, right? So what I want to do is I want this to appear below it. So this active cell, whatever's inside it, is our prompt. So we're going to dimension the prompt cell as a range. They're going to set the prompt cell as the active cell. So this is going to be a range, and it's the active cell. So what's the value? So the prompt, that text, the question that we're requesting, is the prompt cell value. So this is the question, okay? All right, so everything, the secret key, the model, everything else is the same here. The only difference is here inside this prompt. Well, remember, I want those results, whatever the question is, I want those results to come in a table. So again, we're going to replace the characters, but I'm also going to request something called, and this didn't work. This didn't work. I was hoping it would work, but notice, so what I want to do is whatever their question is, I'm going to add a space and I'm going to put represent in a table. Or you notice inside here, what I did was I said in table format, that's going to work. So either one works just fine. And so what I want to represent, and I tried to do not include separator row after the first header row, but this didn't work. Notice the separator, these dotted lines, so I just kind of left them in there. Maybe the different type of prompt. I was trying to exclude it, but it still created the separator row after the first. So keep that in mind. This didn't work, but I'll keep it there in case you have it. So basically, whatever the user asks, we're going to add this instructions to whatever they've asked. So for example, the instructions for this would be top 10 Excel add-ins. That's going to be the first part. Second part would be represent in a table, do not include separator row, which didn't work. Okay. So continuing on, so now that we understand the prompt, remember we're adding on to the prompt because we want the results in a table format. Everything else is exactly the same. We're going to debug the body, right? Meaning I want to know what the response, what we're sending. So if we take a look at the body here, we can see that. Let's take a look at the last one. Here's the results in here. So let's take a look at the prompt here, Text DaVinci. And we asked for Power Query enables user combined. So let's take a look here. So here's the prompt. So top 10 Excel add-ins. Here's what we added from the cell. Then we combined it with represent in a table, do not include separator. So this is the entire prompt that went. And what about the results? The results come here are like this. Again, we're separating it. It starts with text. Here's the first part. Now, remember, we have add-in and we have description. Now, add-in is here and description is here. Then we have 2 lines of just some dashes, and then we have the data. So if we take a look at the results, we have here, so our first 2 lines here, add-in, description, our headers. Then we have a new line. Then we have the dashes. Then we have another new line. Then we have Power Query. Then we have enables user to search. Then we have the description. So you kind of get an idea. We have a new line. Then we have the next one. So basically what I want to do is I want to take all of this data and I want to parse it so that it goes into its respective rows and the columns. Okay, so this is the response. So again, we are going to debug the body. This is what the request. We're going to send the information. We're going to get the response in a text called response. And we're going to check to make sure that there's the correct API. We're going to check to make sure the length. And then we're going to put the response inside the immediate. Remember, this is not necessary, but it is helpful for me to show you. And then we're going to get those results right here. So this enables us to put those results. These results are not parsed. Okay, great. So now we're going to do the same parsing that we did. We're going to go to the right because we have to locate the text to get us everything to the right. We also want to get us everything to the right, to the left of that using the right to remove everything and the left. So just like we did before. And we're also replacing any backslash ends with new lines and backslashes with double quotes. So we're going to do that. Now we also want to do, if there's any, again, if it starts out with new lines like it does in here, look, it starts out with 2 lines. They get converted to character 10. I want to remove those. We're going to replace just basically removing the first two characters. Okay, so now that we have all that, this is exactly what we did before. This is where it starts. Let's say I'm going to put this parse response as table. So now what we need to do is we need to determine what row are we starting out. I want the row to start out the first row below whatever their question is. So that's what we're going to start out. So we want to put inside a variable, start row is a long variable. It's going to basically be the row of the prompt cell plus 1. Set the initial response row 1 row below the question. Okay, now we have that. And I also want, what is the start column? It's going to be the same column as the question. In other words, if you've asked your question in this cell, the column is going to be the same column. That means the column is going to start right here. Okay, now, however many columns there are with data, because it could be a lot. For example, if I decide I'm going to ask this question, let's take a look at this. List top 30 countries, include population, country size, population per 100 squares. So it's kind of a detailed question. Results are going to come in here, and it's going to take a little longer because it's kind of we're looking for top 30 countries, so it's going to take a little bit. And it'll say not responding, but that's fine. It'll respond. And there we have it. Now we have 4 different columns here. We have all the countries, the population, the country size, and the population per 100 square kilometers. So we got all the data here simply by just right-clicking. It could not be easier to get accurate data, hopefully it's accurate, inside Excel. So even no matter how many columns there are, it is going to compensate for that. All right, so let's take a look. Let's continue our code. So what I want to do, we understand the start column and start row. Now what we want to do is we want to create an array. I need to know how many columns there are. How do I know what's a column? Now remember, our results, when they come, look at these results. You see that every time there's a new row, we've already replaced this, and we've already replaced it with character 10. We've done it right here. So what I want to do is I want to look for character 10. Every time I see a character 10, I know it's a new row. So what I want to do is I want to create a split function based on that. That's going to tell us how many rows. So I'm going to create an array, a row array. Now this is already dimensioned here as an array string here, row array, and we also have one as a column array. So I want to determine how many rows. So to do that, we're going to split it based on those new lines. And let me put this split based on new lines. So we're looking for those new lines. So the last row, now I need to get the last row. How do I know how many last row? We're going to determine the start row. We already know the start row because it's 1 row below their question. And I wanted to determine how many rows. So how many rows did our array create? Well, it's going to be based on the upper bound. We're going to use the U bound of the row array. This is going to get us the last row. So the start row plus the U-bound row array, upper bound of that array means the last value. It's going to get us our last row. Now the first one starts at 0, so keep that in mind of an array. The first one's always 0. So we just need to add that together, and it's going to determine our last row. So what we can do is now we can start a loop for the response. We're going to do using the response row is another long variable. It's going to start at the start row to the last row, right? So we're looping through the rows. So that means the start row is right here. It's going to go all the way to the last row. So we know that all the rows it counted, there were 32 rows on this one. Essence is going to be going from 6 to 36. So we see that. So if we know that we have 31 rows of data, and we can use that split function. So it's going to get us just that. So once we have that, we can loop through the rows, but we haven't looped through the columns. We don't know exactly how many columns there are. So how do we determine how many columns? Well, let's take a quick look inside the data here. And let's take a look at, wow, we have a lot of. So if we take a look at here, let's say here's a new line. Now we have the country, United Kingdom. We have a number here, a number here, a number here, and a new line. So I can see that this vertical line here is our separator. So what I want to do is I want to count the vertical lines. But if we look, it starts with a vertical line, which I don't need, and it also ends with a vertical line, which I don't need. So what I want to do is I want to take out the beginning and I want to take out the end of the vertical line. So if I know, so we see this Germany, so if I know 1, 2, 3, so if I count 3, I know that there are 4 columns, right? So basically we're going to remove the first and the last one. And so we're going to split it based on that. Or we could just remove the last one. So we're going to remove the right and the left divider. So we can do that. So I want to remove the first one here, and I want to remove the last one, and then I want to split it based on this. So I'm removing the last one here. Here's the last one. Here's the first one. So I'm going to remove those. So we can do this to do just that. Our row data, here's our row data. Our row data is simply the initial row data. How do we get all, I want to put all of that row data into a string variable. So how do we do that? Well, the first row array, that row array is going to be based on the response row minus the start row. So this is going to tell us what row. So what do I mean by that? The first one's going to be 0, right? In an array, our first value is 0. It goes 0, 1, 2. So how do I get 0? How do we, for our first one? If I know our response row starts at let's take a look at this. If I know our response row starts at 6, and I subtract 6 from that, our start row, it's going to provide 0. And 0 is what I want for the first row, then 1. So how do I get that 0? If I know that our response row, the current row, the first one it's starting on is starting at 6, and then I subtract it, it's going to get us 0. The next time this is going to go to 7, then our start row is going to be 6. So it's going to be 1. So this is going to start at 0 and go to 1. So what I want to do is I want the value, all the values of that first row. What is all the values of that first row? It would look something like, let's take a look at this data here in this one. It's country, and then we have the dashes, and then so here's our first row of data. It would look like this. All of this. This is what it was. Now we're going to take out the left and the right. So I want to take that first row of data, and this is what's in blue here is our first row of data. It's in row data. After I move the left, I want to remove that first, no, I want to remove the right divider by using the left function. So we're going to take all of the data in the row data, and we're subtracting 1, and we're going to take the left of that. That's going to remove, so basically we're removing that last character. And then when we use the right function here, we're going to take all that except for 1, and that's going to remove this left, also this particular left vertical line. So that's going to leave us with just what's highlighted in blue. And that, so when we have that, so what's left in blue, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the split function. I'm going to use it based on this divider. So I'm going to split all this text into 4 different strings, and we're going to, that delimiter is going to be that vertical line. So our column array, we're using the split, we're splitting that row data, and we're basing it on the delimiter of this vertical line here. Create an array for the column data. So now all we need to do is just simply loop through this column data. There's 4, 1, 2, 3, and 4 to do that. So determine the last column. Now again, the last column is the start column plus the last upper bound of the column array. So the upper bound means the last value of the array. It's going to count that. So we know that. So if there are 4 and we know our start column is here, right? In fact, it's actually going to go to 3. Why is it going to go to 3? Because 0, 1, 2, 3. So if I add that, so the first column is here. If I know our first column is 5, right? And I add 3 to that, it's going to go to 8. So I know it's going to loop from 5, 6, 7, all the way to 8. So that's how we're going to do it. That's how we're going to be able to create the loop. So our last column is equal to 5 plus our upper bound. So we know there's 4 values. So this is going to be 3. This is going to be 3. 0, 1, 2, 3. That's 4 different values. So that means it's going to be our last column is going to be 8. So now all we need to loop through the response column equals 5 to 8. So here we're going to do. So now how do we get the first? So now we can place it directly inside the cells. The active sheet cells response row, response column value, this value is simply equal to the column array. Now the column array is simply, I want to look for that, the column minus the start column. So basically, again, if we're looking for the first value, the response column, let's say would be 5, it starts at 5, right? So 5 minus 5 is 0. So our first value is 0 over the array. Our second value is 1, our third value is 2, and our fourth value is 3. So it's going to loop. So to do that, we're going to get 5 minus, again, 5 minus 5 is going to be 0. 6 minus 5 is going to be 1, 7, and 8, and so on and so forth. That's how we add the data. That's how we extract these individual items, 1, 2, 3, and 4 values into their respective cells directly in here. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. That's how we get it. Now we just create a loop, and we loop through all of that data. So that's how we're going to do. So these are 2 inner loops, 1 for the column data, 1 for the row data. So that's all we would need to do. And then lastly, I want to make sure, just want to have a little fun with this. I want to put the first line in bold. And I also want to, probably we don't need to underline it. So just at least in bold. So if the response row equals the starting row, that means only for the first row, then I want to take that entire range, the start with that specific row, the start column, all the way to the last column, and I want to set the font bold equal to true. That means it's going to bold header row. Okay, so that's all we have to do for that. And that's how we create this really cool table. So we've seen a couple different samples of it, and that's how we create a very cool table based on that response. Okay, we've also got a really cool, fixing formulas in code, the last 2. How do we do that? Again, as I showed you, when we click fix my formula, it's going to let us know if there's an issue with the formula. It's going to tell us in that response. So how do we make that happen? And as we can see here, sum product is going to let us know the error in the formula, the range of the second argument of the sum product function is incorrect, and I don't need to read it to you, but you get the idea. Okay, so how do we do that? Okay, and again, this is relatively the same code. However, we're just going to go over the few differences. So it's going to be called fix my formula. And then we're going to go down here. So basically everything is the same. The prompt, right? The formula. This time what I want to do is I want to take the formula. The formula is going to be as a string. Everything else is relatively the same. So the formula is going to be string. Now I need to pull that formula out. I want to use formula, active cell formula. I don't want to use active cell value because it could return in an error. So I want to extract that formula and I want to put it into this string. If it's empty, we're going to let the user know to please select on a cell with a formula. Okay, so again, secret key, temperature, everything's the same. The prompt is slightly different. Please provide, here is the prompt. Please provide a corrected version of the following Excel formula and provide an explanation as to the error or issue. So this is the pretext of our formula. Then I'm going to add a new line and the formula. So what might that look like? It's going to look like right down here. Let's take a look at the last. We've got so many here. Okay, so it looks like this. Please, oh, this was not it. Let's clear all that out. I want to show you that. There's no reason to have all that. And I'm going to take a look and I'm going to do it one more time so that you can see it. Let's try this index match. Okay, and fix my formula. And I'll just go through a little bit. And it'll come up with that value and the actual, there it is. Okay, so index, real time, you saw it. Okay, so now that we have that, I want to take a look inside the immediate window. So now we have it cleared out. We're just showing one single one. Okay, so the prompt, what we're asking is please provide a corrected of the following Excel formula and an explanation as to the error or issue. We're going to add a new line. And then here's the formula here, index, the issue, the formula issued. And basically I created this called customer names, but there's no named range for that. That's why there's an error. Okay, temperature and max token. So everything else is the same. So basically all we're doing is we're starting this prompt with this question, and then we're letting whatever the formula that the user has entered is going to be in the next line below. That is exactly what we are sending to them. So we're going to get the response back. We're going to extract the response. Again, we're checking for the API, maximum length. We're debugging the response. The response is right here that will come in. And we're going to do exactly the same, all exactly the same parsing, no different, right? The only difference is we have a form now. We got a form. If we take a look, I'm going to populate a specific form, and it's called Fix My Formula Form. And if we take a look at that, it's a very simple formula. And we're going to take a look at the properties. We have a form. That form is called Fix My Formula Form. And we have a prompt here. So the prompt is going to go in this. I want to know what the prompt was so we can let user know what was sent over to ChatGPT API. And this one's called the prompt. This is a text box called the prompt. I also made it, if we see that it's enabled, it's false, it is disabled, the user can't make changes or do anything. Because, however, we also have the ChatGPT response. I want whatever response ChatGPT came up with, and I wanted to populate this field, and that is called a response. So it's a simple user form, and we have a single close button. And I've got a little bit of a background picture that's set on it. So that is pretty much it. So what I want to do is I want to take that parsed response and I want to put it into this form with the code. So how are we going to do that? Well, with Fix My Form, we're going to focus on that form. The prompt equals the prompt. The response equals the response answer. And we're going to show the form. Super simple. Not a whole lot of complexity on that form. And that's how we do it. Okay, great. What about Fix My Code? The last very, very cool feature that I'm going to show you is Fix My Code. Let's go ahead and take a look inside that. I've got some code here. I've got a sample code. There's some issues with this code. Right, let me see. The issues are, oh, I've reversed this. So it should be outlook.application, but instead I put application.outlook. So I've basically made this incorrect. So what I want to do is I want to copy this here. And then what we're going to do is we're just going to right click anywhere inside this workbook and we're going to put Fix My Code. This also is going to launch a little bit larger user form. I'm going to paste that code right here. And I'm going to click Fix My Code. And it's going to do just that. In a few seconds, it's going to evaluate the code. And of course, it's going to come back with probably a very correct answer and a reason what's wrong with the code. Okay, so you could see application.outlook is incorrect. Outlook, it has made the correction, it has found the correction here. The error in the original code is that the object being is application Outlook, whereas it should be, this is so cool, outlook.application. The corrected code creates the object Outlook application. So this can be an incredible learning tool. So it corrected it for us, and we've got that, and we could replace our code with that actual correct code. So we've got that. So again, relatively easy on the form. Let's take a look at this and we'll go over the differences in that. Fix My Code. Again, Fix My Code, we're going to look up here. Again, everything is relatively simple. So what I want to do in this case is I want to use two different. So when we right click that, remember there's a macro assigned to that right click. Let's do a little refresher. When we click Fix My Code, this is the macro it's going to run called Fix My Code. This one, all it does is it takes that Fix My Code form and it shows up and it's going to take that Fix My Code, generate text response equals false. So basically I've got generating a little pop-up that's going to appear here. Let's take a look inside this. We've got, again, a user form here, and we've got really two fields. One's called prompt and one's called response. Very simple. We've got a button here called Fix my code button, and another button called close. So that's it. If we were to take a look inside the view code, we have on the close button, all we're doing is hiding the form. On the fix my code button, we're going to run this macro called fix my code get response. Okay, so that's it. The user form is relatively simple, and this little code here called generating, when the response is generating, I'm hoping that this appears, called generating response, so that the user knows it's generating, and then we want to hide that when it's done. If I can't remember if I did that or not. Okay, so that's all we need to do there. So let's take a look at the code that runs when we click fix my code. Fix my code, it is this code that runs. Again, we're going to do all the same thing. However, we're going to take, this one's going to be called code prompt. What we're going to be sending them is called code prompt. Code prompt is going to come directly for fix my code form prompt value. Remember, that is whatever the user has placed directly in here, prompt.value. So whatever the user has placed inside this is what we're going to be sending over. Okay, so if it's empty, we're going to let the user know to please enter a code or macro that contains the issue. This cannot be left blank. We're going to exit the sub out. I'm going to set the secret key and the temperature and do all that exactly. Now the prompt that we're going to build is slightly different. This time we're going to say, please provide, let's fix that English on that, a corrected version, even bad English, it does work well, provide a corrected version of the following Excel VBA code and provide an explanation as to the error. So we're instructing it to do that. Then we're creating a brand new line, and then whatever the code the user has entered, we are going to put it directly here, code prompt. So this is the code that's having the issue. So we're placing it in the line below. So this is going to be the entire prompt that we are sending to ChatGPT. And we're going to do exactly the same. We're replacing all the same lines, the new characters. So we're updating all that. Everything else is exactly the same. We're going to get the response. We're going to debug it. We're going to send the body and debug it here. Again, we're going to check for correct API key. We're going to check for maximum length. And we're going to put the response right here. Okay, great. So we're going to parse the answer exactly like we did before. The only difference here, again, all four of these lines are exactly the same as they are in the other macros. The only difference is now we're going to take whatever response to that parsed answer and we're going to place it directly inside that form. Fix my code form, response is going to equal that parsed answer. Place response in user form. And that's all we have to do. Very, very simple. I'll show you that one more time just so you can see that. Again, I'm going to take a look at this simple code. The easier the code, the quicker it is. All we need to do, again, is just right click, fix my code, paste that code in there, click fix my code, and it's going to generate a response. This one will be a little bit quicker because it is a smaller amount of code. And there you have it. Okay, the issue with the original code is the variable last row is not defined. The corrected code defined. So here, right, I did not define the last row. I didn't define where it is. So we need to do that and we need to update that. And so we've done that. It probably should dimension the last row as well. So we could probably do that. Okay, so that is it. That's all we have to do. We've seen really 4 very, very cool new tools in Excel using the ChatGPT API. We can populate ChatGPT by using a brand new function so we can do based on values that are already in our Excel. We can build up tremendous responses using that. Also, we can create a table. We've added a simple question. It's going to create table results however we want. Of course, we can easily fix code if we want to. Fix formulas here just by clicking fix my formula. It's going to do that. It's going to recognize the issues in the formula. And this one's the date error. We didn't do this one yet. We should do that. So let's do this date error. So there's a date error in here. I've noticed there's an A, so we can do fix my formula. And it's going to know exactly what the issue is and tell you exactly what it is with a corrected response. Okay, very cool. And of course, the last one was fix my code. So 4 awesome tools in Excel using ChatGPT. I hope you have enjoyed this training as much as I have enjoyed bringing it to you. Don't forget to subscribe, comment below. I respond to all my comments. If you want to learn how to build incredible applications